No one noticed the piano until the night it saved a child. It sat in the far corner of the executive lobby like a forgotten relic, its mahogany finish dulled by years of indifference, its keys yellowed with age. Executives walked past it every day without a glance, their eyes fixed on glowing phones and glass conference rooms. To them, it was just another piece of corporate decor, silent, irrelevant, obsolete. But that night, just after 9 p.m., when the building emptied and the city outside hummed like a distant ocean, the piano mattered. Because a blind little girl was sitting alone on a leather couch, trembling. And a janitor was about to change everything. Ethan Cole pushed his cleaning cart across the marble floor, the wheels squeaking softly in the stillness. He worked nights because nights paid a little more, and because nights didn't require him to explain why he needed afternoons free for school pickups, doctor appointments, and the quiet grief of single fatherhood. His uniform smelled of bleach and floor polish. His back ached. His mind was already counting hours until morning. Then he heard it. Not loud crying. Not the kind that draws attention. This was worse. Short, broken breaths. A whispering sob. The sound of someone trying very hard not to be heard. Ethan stopped. The sound came from the seating area near the private elevators, the ones reserved for executives. He hesitated. Employees like him weren't encouraged to linger there. But the sound came again, sharper this time, edged with panic. I can't find her. Ethan abandoned the mop. He rounded the corner and saw her. She was small, too small to be alone in a building this vast. Her shoes dangled inches above the floor as she hugged her knees to her chest. A white cane lay across her lap, her fingers clenched around it like a lifeline. Her eyes stared forward, unfocused, glassy with fear. She was blind. And she was alone. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. Hey, he said softly, keeping his distance. It's okay. You're not in trouble. Her head snapped toward his voice. Don't come closer, she said quickly. My mom said not to. That's okay, Ethan replied, stopping immediately. I won't move. Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. What's your name? He asked. She swallowed. Lily. That's a nice name.
I'm Ethan.
I work here. I clean the floors so people don't slip and sue the building. He tried a gentle smile in his voice. No response. Her breathing sped up. She said 5 minutes, Lily whispered. She always says 5 minutes. But it's loud now. And I can't tell where I am. Ethan glanced around the empty lobby, the towering ceilings, the echoing footsteps from distant security patrols, the way sound bounced unpredictably off glass and stone. For someone who couldn't see, it must have felt like being dropped into a canyon. I don't like when I can't tell where things are, Lily said, her voice cracking. It feels like the world disappears. Ethan knelt slowly, keeping his hands visible. I get that, he said. Sometimes the world feels too big. Her breath hitched. I can't breathe, she said suddenly. Everything's spinning. I think I'm going to fall. Ethan recognized the signs immediately. A panic spiral. He didn't rush her, didn't touch her, didn't tell her to calm down. He'd learned, painfully, that panic doesn't listen to commands. My son gets like this sometimes, he said quietly. When things feel out of control. She tilted her head slightly toward him. What do you do? Ethan glanced instinctively toward the piano. The forgotten piano. I play, he said. She frowned. Play what? Music. Before she could protest, Ethan stood and walked to the instrument. His fingers hovered above the keys. He hadn't played in years, not since life got heavy, not since dreams got replaced with survival. But muscle memory is a strange thing. The first note rang out, low and gentle. Then another. A simple melody unfolded, slow, steady, repetitive. No dramatic flourishes. No showmanship. Just a quiet promise carried on sound. Lily froze. Her breathing stuttered, then softened. The music filled the lobby, slipping into corners where fear had been hiding. The echo that once felt overwhelming now became comforting, predictable. What is that? Lily asked. It's just a song, Ethan said without stopping. You don't have to do anything. Just listen. Minutes passed. Her shoulders dropped. Her fingers loosened their grip on the cane. It feels warmer, she said. Like the room got smaller. Ethan swallowed hard. That's the music, he said. It helps put the walls back. Unseen from the mezzanine above them, a woman had stopped walking. Clara Whitmore, CEO, billionaire, feared negotiator, stood perfectly still as the piano notes reached her ears. She'd come back to grab a forgotten file, already irritated, already exhausted. Then she heard the melody. Then she heard her daughter's voice. And her blood ran cold, because her blind child was down there, with a man she didn't know. And for the first time in years, Clara Whitmore was afraid, not of losing control of a company, but of losing the most important thing in her life. Clara Whitmore did not run. She hadn't run in 20 years, not in boardrooms, not during hostile takeovers, not even the night she signed divorce papers with reporters camped outside her home. Running meant panic. Panic meant mistakes. But her hands were shaking. She stood frozen on the mezzanine, one heel angled forward as if she'd been caught mid-step, the piano's melody rising to meet her like a memory she didn't know she had. Below her, the vast executive lobby looked smaller somehow, softer. And in the center of it sat her daughter.
Calm.
Breathing.
Alive.
Clara pressed a hand to her mouth. Lily was still blind. Still vulnerable. Still too trusting for a world that demanded sharp elbows and faster reflexes. And yet, for the first time since Clara had let go of her hand earlier that evening, Lily wasn't afraid. Because of the janitor. Clara's eyes locked onto the man at the piano. His shoulders were slightly hunched, as if he were trying not to take up space. His uniform was worn, his shoes scuffed. This was not a man who expected to be noticed. His fingers moved gently over the keys, not performing, offering. Clara's instinct screamed at her to intervene. What if he's dangerous? What if this is an act? What if? Then Lily spoke. I like this song, her daughter said quietly. It makes the loud parts go away. Clara's chest tightened painfully. She remembered the diagnosis. The sterile office. The doctor explaining that Lily would never see her mother's face, never read a whiteboard, never recognize danger the way sighted children did. Clara had vowed that day to control everything else, to make the world safe by force if she had to. And yet here she was, outmaneuvered by a melody. Clara descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. She stayed close to the wall, unwilling to interrupt whatever fragile balance had been created below. Ethan noticed her shadow before he saw her. He didn't stop playing, but his spine straightened. Years of being invisible had sharpened his peripheral awareness. He sensed authority the way sailors sense storms. Lily tilted her head. Ethan? Yes, he said softly, still playing. I think my mom's here. Clara's breath caught. How do you know, sweetheart? She asked, stepping forward. Lily smiled. I can tell when the air changes. Ethan's fingers stilled. The silence hit like a dropped plate. He turned and found himself face to face with the most powerful woman in the building. Clara Whitmore's expression was unreadable. Her tailored suit looked like it had been poured onto her frame. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, until they flicked to Lily, and everything softened. Mom, Lily said, standing unsteadily. Clara crossed the remaining distance in 3 strides and dropped to her knees, pulling Lily into her arms with a fierceness that surprised even herself. I'm here, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I'm here. Lily clung to her. I wasn't scared anymore. Clara closed her eyes. She looked up at Ethan. Who are you? She asked, not harshly, but with the weight of someone used to answers. Ethan stood, wiping his hands on his pants automatically. My name's Ethan Cole, he said. I work nights. Cleaning. Clara glanced at the piano. You play? Sometimes, he said. When it helps. Lily tugged at Clara's sleeve. He didn't touch me, she said quickly. He stayed far away like I asked. And he talked nice. And then he played. Ethan swallowed. I was just trying to help, he added. I didn't know who she was. Clara studied him for a long moment. Most people froze under her gaze. They rambled. They apologized too much. They tried to impress her. Ethan did none of that. He just waited. You didn't call security, Clara said. Ethan shook his head. She wasn't in danger. She was scared. That answer landed harder than any apology could have. Clara rose slowly to her feet, Lily still in her arms. You should have called someone, she said carefully. Maybe, Ethan agreed. But panic doesn't like uniforms. Lily nodded emphatically. They're too loud. Clara exhaled, something in her chest loosening. I was in a board call, Clara said quietly. I lost track of time. I know, Lily said. You always do. The words weren't accusing. They were factual. And somehow, that made them worse. Clara turned back to Ethan. Thank you, she said. The word felt insufficient, but it was all she had. You stayed. You helped my daughter when I wasn't here. Ethan's throat tightened. She did great, he said. She just needed something steady. Clara glanced once more at the piano. How long have you played? Since I was a kid, Ethan replied. My mom taught me. It was her way of keeping things together. Clara nodded slowly. Lily, she said, would you like to go home? Lily hesitated, then turned toward Ethan. Will you play again sometime? The question hung in the air. Ethan looked to Clara, unsure of his place. Clara surprised them both. If Ethan is willing, she said, I think that would be a good idea. Ethan blinked. Yes, he said finally. Anytime. As they walked toward the elevator, Clara glanced back once more at the piano. At the janitor who had done what her money, power, and schedule could not. And for the first time in years, Clara Whitmore wondered how many extraordinary people she had walked past without ever seeing them. By morning, the lobby piano was no longer invisible. The change wasn't loud or announced. There were no emails, no meetings, no dramatic speeches. Yet everyone who walked through the glass doors of Whitmore Global that day felt it immediately. Something subtle had shifted, like the building itself had taken a breath. Security guards stood a little straighter near the piano. Assistants slowed as they passed it. Even executives, people who measured time in billable minutes, paused, if only for a heartbeat. Because the CEO had stopped there first. Clara Whitmore arrived earlier than usual. Her heels clicked across the marble with purpose, but her gaze wasn't on her phone or the scrolling stock numbers on the wall screens. It was on the piano. She set her briefcase down beside it and ran a finger along the worn wood, tracing a faint scratch near middle C. The memory of last night returned with startling clarity. The sound of the melody, Lily's steady breathing, the janitor's quiet presence. Clara straightened. Do not remove this piano, she said to no one in particular. Her assistant, Maya, froze mid-step. Remove it, ma'am? It stays, Clara replied. Exactly where it is. Yes, ma'am. The directive spread fast. By noon, the rumor mill had ignited. The CEO ordered the piano saved. It's about a janitor. Her daughter was involved. No one had the full story, but everyone was watching, including Ethan Cole. He arrived for his night shift unaware that his world was already tilting. He clocked in, nodded to security, and pushed his cart toward the east wing, until he noticed the piano. Freshly cleaned. A small bench placed carefully in front of it, and a sign taped discreetly to the wall beside it. Employees welcome to play. Ethan stared at it longer than he meant to. Must be a joke, he muttered. Not a joke, said a voice behind him. Ethan turned to find Maya, the CEO's assistant, holding a tablet and wearing a look of cautious curiosity. Ms. Whitmore asked me to find you, she said. Ethan's stomach dropped. I didn't break anything. Maya smiled despite herself. Actually, you fixed something. She led him not to a conference room or HR office, but to the lobby. The same place where everything had gone wrong, and right at the same time. Ms. Whitmore would like you to play again, Maya said. This afternoon. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. I'm on shift tonight. She knows, Maya replied. She also knows you're a single father. Ethan stiffened. How? Background checks exist, Maya said gently. And so does gratitude. At precisely 3:30 p.m., the lobby filled, not officially, but undeniably. Employees lingered under the pretense of coffee breaks. Assistants pretended to wait for elevators. Even Clara stood at the edge, Lily seated beside her on the couch, white cane resting against her leg. Ethan's hands trembled as he sat at the piano. This wasn't a frightened child anymore. This was an audience. He closed his eyes and played. The melody was different this time, richer, more confident. Not a lullaby, but a story. It spoke of loss without despair, of endurance without bitterness. Conversations faded. Phones were lowered. For 3 minutes, Whitmore Global forgot itself. When the final note faded, the lobby was silent. Then Lily clapped. Everyone else followed. Ethan stood abruptly, embarrassed. I should get back to work. Ethan, Clara said. He stopped. You mentioned your mother taught you to play, she said. What did she do? Ethan hesitated. She was a piano teacher. Neighborhood kids. Cheap lessons. Said music was for everyone, not just people who could afford it. Clara nodded slowly. And your father? He left. Ethan replied simply. The room held its breath. And your son? Clara asked. Ethan's voice softened. Lucas. He's 6. Loves dinosaurs. Hates broccoli. Lily smiled. I hate peas. Ethan smiled back before he could stop himself. Clara watched the exchange closely. That night, she sat alone in her office long after the building emptied, staring at a personnel file she'd asked HR to pull. Ethan Cole, former conservatory student, dropped out sophomore year. Reason: family emergency. Her jaw tightened. Talent abandoned for survival. She thought of the countless initiatives her company funded: arts grants, scholarships, glossy brochures promising opportunity. And yet the person who had changed her daughter's night had been mopping her floors. The next morning, another email went out. Subject: Lobby Music Program. It was brief. Intentional. Employees are invited to share musical talents during designated times. Participation encouraged. At the bottom, and signed, but unmistakably Clara's. Sometimes leadership means listening. Ethan read it on his phone during a break, his hands shaking. He didn't know what this meant. He only knew that for the first time since life had forced him to choose between dreams and diapers, the world had cracked open, just enough to let music back in. And somewhere high above, in a glass-walled office, a CEO was beginning to question everything she thought she knew about power. The backlash began quietly. It always did. At first, it was eye contact that lingered too long. Conversations that stopped when Ethan entered a room. Smiles that didn't quite reach people's eyes. By the third day, the whispers were no longer subtle. Must be nice, someone muttered as Ethan passed the break room. Playing piano instead of doing your job. Another voice scoffed. Ethan pretended not to hear. He scrubbed harder. Worked faster. Stayed later. Because attention had a cost, and he was starting to feel the bill coming due. The lobby music program was officially open to all, but everyone knew who it revolved around. Executives scheduled meetings to end near the piano. Videos of Ethan playing began circulating internally, then externally. A clip titled Janitor Plays Piano. CEO Listens racked up thousands of views overnight. HR noticed. So did legal. And by Friday, Ethan was called into an office he'd never been invited into before. The door closed softly behind him. Have a seat, said a man in a gray suit. He didn't offer his name. Ethan sat. This is informal, the man said. But we need to discuss optics. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm still doing my job. No one's saying you aren't, the man replied smoothly. But there are concerns. Favoritism. Liability. You interacting with the CEO's daughter. I helped a scared kid, Ethan said quietly. The man steepled his fingers. Perception matters. Ethan left the room feeling smaller than when he entered. That night, he didn't touch the piano. Lily noticed immediately. She sat on the couch with Clara, head tilted, waiting. Why isn't he playing? She asked. Clara scanned the lobby, unease creeping in. Maybe he's busy. Lily frowned. He's sad. Clara looked up sharply. What? I can hear it, Lily said. When people don't play. Clara's chest tightened. She found Ethan in the janitorial supply room, refilling bottles with mechanical precision. Ethan, she said. He straightened instantly. Ms. Whitmore. You didn't play tonight. He swallowed. I thought it might be better not to. Better for whom? For the company, he replied. For you. Clara crossed her arms. Did someone tell you to stop? No one had to. She stared at him, anger flashing, then fading into something heavier. I didn't ask you to disappear, she said. Ethan met her gaze for the first time since the meeting. People like me disappear all the time. The words landed like a confession. Before Clara could respond, Lily's voice echoed softly from the lobby. Ethan? He turned. She stood alone, cane tapping lightly against the floor. Will you play the dinosaur song? Clara looked between them. The building felt suddenly very quiet. Ethan hesitated, then shook his head gently. Not tonight, Lily. Her shoulders drooped. Clara felt something fracture inside her. That evening, Clara received an email marked urgent. Legal advises discontinuing the lobby music initiative immediately. Risk exposure increasing. Media attention escalating. Clara closed her laptop without responding. Instead, she drove home in silence, Lily asleep in the back seat, and stared at the city lights through the windshield. Power had always meant control, but control had failed her daughter. The next morning, Clara did something she hadn't done in years. She walked into HR unannounced. I want Ethan Cole's full file, she said. And I want it now. By noon, she had it. The conservatory transcripts. The scholarship letters. The withdrawal form signed the week Ethan's wife died. The notes. Primary caregiver. Financial hardship. Clara sat back in her chair, breath shallow. This wasn't favoritism. This was neglect, systemic, quiet, normalized. That afternoon, Clara called an all-hands meeting. The auditorium filled fast. Ethan stood in the back, uniform still on, unsure why he'd been told to attend. Clara stepped to the podium. I want to talk about value, she said. The room stilled. We measure it in profit margins, productivity, efficiency. But last week, a janitor calmed my blind daughter when I wasn't there. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. He did not do it for attention. He did not do it for reward. He did it because he knew how to help. Clara's gaze found Ethan. And then, she continued, we made him feel like a problem. Silence. Effective immediately, Clara said, voice steady. The lobby music program is permanent. Participation is protected. And Ethan Cole, if he is willing, will no longer be mopping floors. Ethan's heart slammed. Clara took a breath. He'll be joining our community arts initiative. With full pay, full benefits, and flexible hours for his son. The room erupted. Ethan couldn't move. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Clara approached him quietly. You don't owe us anything, she said. But I hope you'll stay. Ethan's eyes burned. For the first time, he said, I think I can. From the lobby, Lily's soft applause echoed, small hands clapping for a man who almost vanished. The piano sounded different when Ethan played it after that. Not louder, not grander, truer. The lobby still looked the same. Glass walls, polished floors, people in motion, but something underneath had shifted, like a foundation quietly reinforced. Employees no longer hurried past the piano. They gathered. They listened. They remembered things they'd buried under deadlines and expectations. And Ethan, no longer just the janitor, sat at the keys with a steadiness that surprised even him. He wasn't performing. He was belonging. On the first afternoon of the new program, Lily arrived early, her hand resting lightly on Clara's arm. She didn't head for the couch this time. She walked straight toward the piano, confident, counting her steps by sound. You're playing the happy one, she said before Ethan had even finished the opening bars. He smiled. How can you tell? Because it doesn't feel heavy, she replied. It feels like when people stay. Ethan swallowed. Clara watched from a few feet away, her phone face down in her hand, a small but deliberate act. She'd canceled 2 meetings to be there. The world could wait. When the song ended, Lily turned toward the sound of applause, her grin bright. "My mom says you're teaching now," she said. "Something like that," Ethan replied. "Turns out this building has a lot of quiet musicians." "That makes sense," Lily said seriously. "Quiet people have the best songs." Clara laughed softly, an unfamiliar sound to those around her. Later that week, Ethan met his new class. It wasn't in a grand studio, just a converted conference room with 3 keyboards, a circle of mismatched chairs, and a handwritten sign taped to the door. "Community Arts, all welcome." The students came hesitantly at first, an IT analyst with stage fright, a security guard who'd played trumpet in high school, an intern who wrote songs but had never let anyone hear them. Ethan didn't lecture. He listened. He taught them what his mother had taught him, that music wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. Across the hall, Clara sat in on one session unnoticed, watching the way Ethan met each person where they were. She saw leadership there, not the kind that commanded, but the kind that made space. That night, as Ethan tucked Lucas into bed, his son looked up at him with wide, serious eyes. "Daddy," Lucas said, "are you still a janitor?" Ethan paused. "I still clean," he said. "Just different messes." Lucas nodded, satisfied. "Can you play the dinosaur song again?" Ethan laughed. "Of course." As the familiar melody filled the small apartment, Ethan realized something profound. He hadn't abandoned his dream. He'd carried it. Weeks passed. The viral video cycle moved on as it always did. But something lasting remained. The piano stayed. The program grew. Donations flowed not because of press releases, but because people felt changed. One evening, long after the building emptied, Clara found Ethan at the piano again. Just him. No audience. "You never stop," she observed. Ethan shrugged. "Helps me think." Clara sat beside him on the bench, a move that would have once been unthinkable. "I spent years believing power meant never needing help," she said quietly. "My daughter taught me otherwise." Ethan glanced at her. "She's a good teacher." Clara smiled. "So are you." She hesitated. "Would you consider helping us design something bigger? Scholarships. Access. Not charity, pathways." Ethan's fingers rested on the keys. "I'd like that," he said. From the doorway, Lily listened, counting the notes under her breath. "You know," she said, "if you play long enough, people start finding each other." Ethan looked at Clara. Clara looked at her daughter. And in that moment, the world felt, if not fixed, then at least kinder. The piano played on. Not because it was ordered to, but because someone finally listened.